Today, I want to do a video on my personal story of me and money, me and my finances and wealth, and talk about my testimony because I think it's something that people need to hear. I think there's a day where truths come out about me where people, why I act the way I act or do what I do in life. And it's a really interesting time in my life because I have been the same yesterday as I am today when it comes to building wealth and how I act in public. Um, Going back to when I first got married, because actually, the story goes, I had a lemonade stand as a little kid a couple times. I washed cars to buy my first car, and started my own detailing business. I had my own baseball card shop in the corner of a barber shop in my hometown when I was a sophomore in high school. Right, I got a couple glass cases, so I've always been around selling candy in junior high, things like that. I've always, had an entrepreneurial spirit, um, but I was always mocked and made fun of my whole life. Growing up, I was always overweight. My mom shopped at Kmart in the husky section. Gosh, I hated that word. It's okay, you're not fat, you're just husky. And so, but my point being is that in junior high and high school, I was not popular. I always was made fun of, picked on, bullied, things like that. And I always knew inside that I did have an ambitious sort of spirit. My wife didn't know it though. When she met me, I was in fire academy and we got engaged pretty quickly. And I just left a long-term relationship of 2.5 years, because that lady, she gave me an ultimatum as I was leaving fire academy, going to fire academy, to marry her or else. And so I said, I pick or else, because I couldn't be engaged while I'm at fire academy. I had too much to think about. I was too scared, too nervous. Anyway, my wife met me during fire academy, and we were engaged and married within I think 8 months of knowing each other. It just happened fast. Well, my wife didn't know that I had this entrepreneurial spirit. As a matter of fact, when we first married, I was a waiter at a really famous steakhouse, McClintock Steakhouse in Avila Beach, California. Very famous. It was like in the top 10 steakhouses in the country. And I would work 4 or 5 hour shifts, and I would make twice as much as her. And she was very professional, amazing. My wife's really never applied for a job because she was always headhunted. Um, Headhunters would come and take her from one management job to another management job. And she was, always wearing suits and, working in retail and in the retail industry, managing stores and stuff. And she would come home to me, building a model airplane. I had left, she leaves for work and I'm like sitting in my PJs building the model airplane, like some 5-foot monstrosity out of balsa wood. And she'd come home and she gets so angry. And my shift hadn't started yet. We work totally opposite days, and days, night and the day shift. My simple answer was, but I make more money than you. And she would get so angry because she was like, I'm getting really worried. Like, do you have any ambition? And I was working as a paid call firefighter at that time. I was an OIC, if anyone in the fire service knows what that is. And so, I was like the captain of a volunteer rig, right? You get paid for only the calls you go on. And I was working as a waiter. And it was a simple answer. It was one that rang in her head for years, because I don't know if you guys know this. Type 1 if you agree. Um, uh, Women are historians. They don't forget crap. I mean, man, they got a bulletproof. It's like a library in there. And for all the ladies right now that are angry but are like, gosh darn, the ninja's right. Type 2. All right. So it was just a simple answer. I make more money than you. And that's how I always viewed things. I didn't care what I was doing. It was how much of my time was I giving away for how much money I was making. And I did some really dirty jobs. When I became a firefighter, the firefighters would mock me. They thought I was sucking up. This guy hated my guts and would never, and he probably laughed at me. He didn't know my net worth was way more than his, even though he owned a Subway and what's that pizza? Papa Murphy's. But he was a fire chief. And, but I was a real estate investor and I was just killing it. And, but I would tell guys, hey, if anybody wants, I got time when the guys were in the day room, doing things. If you guys are going to pay someone to wash your car this week, I'll wash it, for the same money. And the guys would mock me because the chief was the only one that took me up on it. goes, oh yeah, I'll pay you to wash my car. I make this much. I'm like, yeah, no problem. And it would happen all the time. Like firefighters that wouldn't want to take a late dispatch shift at our department, they would pay me to swap shifts with them, and they'd give me, $30. Well, at that time, I was selling electric trains, the very beginning of my career, on eBay. So I would be in dispatch. It was a slow station, and it was in the middle of the night, and I'd be on my laptop listing electric trains that I bought, on my days off on eBay. And so I would take their money to work the late shift, and they would always mock me. Like they would say I was money hungry, I was greedy, or I was um, they would just mock me. And all of them were poor. They were super poor. I used to drive up in I had a 1991 Honda Civic, black Honda Civic, and it was all gangstered out. It was so sweet. It was lowered. It had a NOS system in it. They pulled the bottle though. I guess they wanted to do some whippets, but it was a sweet little car. I paid like $2,000 for it, and I used to tell the guys, they all had these expensive trucks that they paid payments on, and I had an expensive truck too that I paid cash. It was a salvaged 2002 F350 diesel truck, Lariat. It was beautiful. I paid 25,000 cash. I saved up. I flipped one house, and it bought me the Ford truck and the Ferrari replica car. Right, it's a whole other story. But they would mock me, and the whole time I knew I was a millionaire at that time, and because I had $1 million worth of appreciated real estate. And I had equity lines. I could tap into probably about 40% of that $1 million at any given time in seconds, right? Just write a check, which I would do because sales would come. Like companies were going out of business in 2004, and I would go and write checks. As a matter of fact, one of my big purchases, I think I spent like 10 or 12 grand at this company, if I remember right. Woodcraft company. I was going out of business. One of the owners, the president of the company, is now a subscriber of this channel. Well, so I would wash, the Chief's car, and I would take the crappy shifts at work, and then when I'd go home, I would clean people's houses. So here I'm making $110,000 with all the overtime added up at the fire station, and I was still cleaning people's houses. And I was taking all of that money and I was diving it into investments. I was buying stocks. I was learning about how to trade, and everyone mocked me. And I would take the mocking because it was the greatest position to be at. This is why I named the channel The Economic Ninja. Because to be an economic ninja, you want to look like the poorest, dumbest person in the room and be the fly on the wall and listen. And braggers will let go of amazing, amazing information. When they know that they're around somebody that has accomplished more, is probably worth more, or knows more than them, that's when they get quiet. I don't like those kind of situations. I may talk a lot here because I'm by myself with you right now. You and I are sitting here in a car talking, right? But when I'm in public and people don't know who I am, I'm very quiet. As a matter of fact, if any of you have met me, type 3 in public before. I've met a lot of you. I meet subscribers every day, almost every single day, and wherever we are in the world. The Thailand thing really flew me. I'm like, well, there are people in Thailand watching the channel. It blows me away. But my point being is that I'm pretty quiet. I want people to spill their guts, uh, and with people that I don't like, and I'm looking for an advantage, I get them either bragging about themselves or I piss them off. That's the number two ways, the easiest ways to get the information that you want. Just that's a little tip if you're in a boardroom or working a deal. So growing up, even my parents didn't know, and my wife didn't want me telling anyone, because she'd hate it when I'd say, well, we're millionaires. And she goes, dude, we're not millionaires. Like, we don't have $1 million in the bank. That's what my wife's definition, and still is to this day. And I remember one day I came to her years ago and I said, oh, do you want to, and she, it was an argument. She's like, stop saying we're millionaires. And I would always say it like people I was trying to, like friends, I'm like, look, dude, I know what you think of me. You judge me. I wear clothes that I bought from Ross. I drive old vehicles. I get it. But just so you know, I'm trying to help you. I really know what I'm talking about. Like, look, we're millionaires. And my wife tense up. She'd tense up like, I've been a millionaire since, and it's come in and out because I lost money in the stock market back in, and I would start going through my the history. We became millionaires when I was in my mid 20s from real estate. Then I lost some money in the stock market, and it brought us down to, I don't know, 350, 400,000. Then we built it up and we made millions over here. And she'd get pissed. She's like, stop telling people that. So I'd show her all our crypto. I'm like, look, millionaires. And she's like, it's not real money. I'm like, so I got all that stuff too. So I was battling people in public. I was battling my family, my wife, my parents. My mom was my greatest cheerleader, and when she died, I made a conscious decision to take over her role as a financial cheerleader for other people. And but I still had upward, like an upward battle. And so there was a point in my life where I just started calling myself an idiot. I did it at work. I did it at home, and I would say something that was so true and so real about finance or wealth creation. And I would get this all the time. You always talk about that. I'm like, man, I gotta be honest with you. I just talk about what I'm excited about. I love making money, And some people, I guarantee you, some religious person's gonna go, see, the love of money is the root of all evil. I'm like, dude, everyone needs a hobby. I don't know what the crap you're talking. I like making money. I'm like, I don't need to sit and watch football all day. I don't need to sit there and I got hobbies, but they're not as cool as making money, because then you make more money, your hobbies get cooler. I don't know if you know that. Like, just throwing this out there. Say I agree. If you make more money, your hobbies all of a sudden get cooler. All right. So so she didn't, my wife didn't want me saying that. But and my wife knew, she goes, we're the only people that are financially successful in all the friends we know. Everyone else is fake. They're fake. They're walking around with like Louis Vuitton handbags. They're like, how much do you pay for that? I'm just curious. And they're like, we don't tell anyone this, but this much. I'm like, well, you just told me, so I bet you told 5 other people, but whatever. And I'm like, holy cow, it's like $2,000, $2,500. I'm like, geez, oh, my last car doesn't make that much. Remember the Honda Civic I told you about? And I mean, the guys at the fire station would take quarters, and they thought it was funny. They'd drop like 10 quarters behind the muffler, because I say that thing, it's just making money every time I turn that car on. I was trying to give them a really good, solid financial and life lesson. And so they would put quarters around the back of it, and they would laugh as I'd walk out. They're all watching like a bunch of idiots. Look at Travis. He's crapping out money. They're like, hey, your car's crapping out money. And I picked up the $2. And I walked in and I said, I'm going to go and take your $2 and I'm going to buy something amazing with it. It's going to make me money. And they all just snickered at me. And I went and bought a silver dime. I know it sounds funny, but you need to be really careful what you say around people that are talking out loud. You can learn things from people that are spewing out nonsense, and you can learn things from people that are spewing out or shooting out of their mouth amazing truth. But you need to know how to decipher what it is and how to use it, right? With a fool, when it comes to money, spewing nonsense, you can sit and take all this in and then think and contemplate how they live their life, what they're worth, and you go, I'm going to make a conscious decision not to make the same decisions they make in life, right? I don't need to buy a Louis Vuitton bag. I could buy a fake one if I really cared. Um, if I really cared. I mean, because think about it. The only reason they have their name plastered all over their bag is so that you can impress other people, not impress yourself. When you look at the stitching of a fine Italian-made bag that has no brand on it, but you look at it, the thickness, the smell, the inside liner, the stitching inside, the care that someone made when they made that bag that I bought. Oh, actually, my wife bought as a gift for me from TJ Maxx for $200. It is an amazing bag. It's beautiful. But, if it doesn't have Louis Vuitton all over it, whatever. And you're going to see me. I got a bunch of fake crap for the channel. It's going to be awesome. I mean, you guys seen my Prada hat. But the thing is fake. But my thing is that my whole life I lived like a ninja, but I started calling myself an idiot when I'd say something truthful, and they would snicker at me or something like I'm sorry, I must be an idiot, right? And I knew I wasn't. But what happened was that overtook me, and I'm not joking. Your words are a two-edged sword. They build you up or cut you down. And when I started saying that out loud, a few years later, I realized I had actually made myself a lot dumber than I used to be. I'm not kidding, right? I'm being very, very honest. Please do not do what I ever did, because I would say something amazing. Hey guys, you may want to buy this Bitcoin. It's It's 500 bucks. Why don't you buy $50 of Bitcoin and just put it in a wallet and just see what happens? It looks pretty revolutionary. And they'd say, dude, it's a scam. You're an idiot for buying it. And I go, well, I guess I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I'm a moron. Well, honestly, I think that was causing me to lose brain cells. I'm being very honest right now. As a matter of fact, if any of you agree with that the power of the tongue can build you up or cut you down, and you can understand what I'm saying, say yes. Just agree with me, because I don't want you to go through. Part of a truly successful man will first share with you what he did wrong or she did wrong in life, rather than tell you all the great things that happened. Unsuccessful people brag about all the great things they do or what they are or what they're wearing. All right. A truly successful man never wants to see someone else go through the pain that they went through, the strife, because it always sets you back and you lose time when you make a bad decision. Every single day you make a bad decision, you lose time that you'll never ever get back. You are going to die soon. Someday you're going to die. We're all going to die. And you only have so much time on this earth to succeed and help other people. And at the same time, it'll help yourself, right? I mean, look, in the community post, if you guys saw it, type 4 if you saw the community post last night of a comment of somebody that went from being an atheist to accepting Jesus Christ and now being wealthy, like gaining wealth, like the person's whole life's changed. I'm like, I look at that and I'm going, that's what gets me up every single day. Now there's dirtbags that want to spew out nonsense that would never have the balls to say it to my face. They'd probably just be like this and go, "Ah, you're a lot bigger than I thought." I hear that all the time. And like, are you got one of the guys who are calling me fat? And they're just like, ah. Anyway, my point being is, I don't care about that. I care about the people that are changing, we're helping, right? And I want to see every single one of you help thousands and thousands of people around the world. That's my goal. When I started the channel, I said, I believe that more people are going to start channels and become more successful, more richer, and have more influence over the nations than I will. And that's my goal in this channel. And that's why I started helping people, encouraging small YouTubers to start YouTube channels, helping them out as much as I can. I look now and it turned into people just trying to use me and get a couple quick bucks. And so I took a step back, and I have to be really careful with what I do, right? Because I want to sow my time and my energy into fertile ground, being another human being that's going to do well with it, not someone that's just going to go make money. I've got, for every 9 people that want to steal or take money or abuse someone, there's one person out there that's willing to take information and go run with it, right? So I've done stories about tithing and why it's so darn important, and all these religious people that are just, religion's something that's created by man. It's actually satanic, just, it's demonic. Religion's a bunch of rules by man. And I talk about tithing. I'm like, look, I have nothing to gain by telling you this other than the excitement of being able to watch you tithe, because God says, hey, if you don't tithe 10%, you're actually stealing from me. But if you also tithe, you're going to I'm going to pour out a blessing on you, right? So I've told you that story before. Well, you know, when I started the YouTube channel, I looked at my wife, because my wife said, you need the whole channel started out of a very serious argument with my wife. And I made an ultimatum against our marriage, which I shouldn't have done, but I was very, very angry, very frustrated, because my wife said, stop warning people, stop trying to give people financial advice. Nobody wants to hear it. These are like knives hitting me, right? She goes, if you need to go and get a bigger platform and talk to the world, just go talk to the world, but stop talking to our friends. And I told my wife, I said, we need better friends if you're having that conversation with me. I mean, I've told you a story. One of my best friends, he says, I will never watch your channel. And I said, I wish you would, because one day you're going to be broke. And he just snickers at me. He's such a good guy too. He goes, I will never watch your channel. And 3 months ago, he found out he lost 40% of his income because one of the companies that he does business with went bankrupt, and they're going to stay open. They don't have to pay him a dime. And I've never heard my friend. He's such an awesome dude. He is one of the kind. He is the kindest guy I've ever met. One of the kindest guys. I know another guy, and he said he's never said a bad thing to anyone ever. And I heard him say something horrible about the company that's not paying him. And we got in the car, me and my wife, and I go, you know, I had been reporting on that company losing its its ground, and then it was going to go bankrupt months and months before. Anyway, so none of my friends liked hanging out with me at a certain point. And so when my wife said that, I woke up the next morning, I looked at her and I said, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel. She goes, good. And I said, but here's the thing. They're all gonna think that our success is from YouTube, just so you know. And she looks at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm all, I'm gonna be the most successful financial YouTuber in YouTube. I called it. I Babe Ruth the crap out of that thing. And in the beginning of my channel, I used to talk about how I'm going to outwork everyone. I'm going to outdo everyone. I'm going to outpost everyone. You know, and if you've been following me for a long time, you know what I'm talking about, right? Um, I said they're going to think it's from YouTube, and my wife didn't even believe it. I remember when the first check came in the mail from Google, and this is why I want you all to start a YouTube channel. And I know everyone's different. Everyone's channels will be different. But my wife looked at it, was $500, and and it was for a month. And I first looked at it and I got so excited, my eyes went up. Now here, I'm telling you, at that point, at that point, I was worth a couple, almost maybe a couple $1,000,000 because the crypto is still, I was still heavy, right, on that. And then you look at my house value and all that stuff, and so I'm just trying to give you like real numbers. And I looked at $500, my eyes just got big. The first thing I thought of was, do you know how much, and I'm thinking in my mind, do you know how much real estate you would have had to bought back in the day to get that much free cash flow? Like, this is the greatest thing ever. I show my wife, and within a month, Google calls us and goes, hey, you're like, you're like the fastest growing financial channel in YouTube. We're going to give you an assistant. And my wife starts seeing like finances flowing in, and she goes, is this legal? I'm like, yeah, it's legal. And she's just like, and I'm like, I told you, everyone's going to think it's because of this. And it wasn't a lot of money that we were used to. We lived very within our means. Our still, and today, this day, we actually still do, on a percentage basis. I only spend, well, now I spend 5% of what I make. I used to spend 10% of what I make. That was our spending money. After all my bills were paid, because had gotten ourselves out of debt, the only debt we had was a house payment. And I told you that story of when I paid off the house, some spiritual event happened. My dad used to tell me it would happen. I didn't know it until I did it, because I always had the monies. I'm like, oh, I got the crypto. Who cares if I got a mortgage? You know, it's 3%. I was being deceived by Satan. Holy cow. And I was delivered from that. And something happened when I paid it off. I had the money, fine. And it was an ultimatum. It was an argument with my wife. She goes, she goes, stop calling us millionaires. And even when I started the YouTube channel, we're not millionaires. I'm like, what's a millionaire? She goes, $1,000,000 in bank. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing you could ever start say. No one in the right mind does that. But I'm like, and I was making all these investments in stocks and stuff when I just started the YouTube channel. I was taking every dime I had, just like when I had the trailer business, tractor business, the palm tree business. I was diving every dime into crypto, every dime into silver, every dime into stocks. And I would take off 10% of it, and we'd go to Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farm as families, go camping, and always 10% was my number. My side hustle money, 10% went to tithe, 80% went to investments, and the last 10% went to us. That's how it worked. And that was my priorities. And the wealth is growing over years and years. You know, when I did the trailer business, my buddy Charlie, you know, he would take his and he put his son through college. I took mine and I bought crypto. He watched it. I bought silver. I bought crypto. And he goes, you know, man, I wish I could do that. And I go, well, maybe you should not pay for your son's college and have him pay for it. You know, help him, give him a shelter, food, and have him pay for his own so he really appreciates it, you know? And but that's what they did. And they couldn't do it with any of the other kids because took a whole, you know, a bunch of money to do that. But now he looks back and he goes, gosh dang, Travis bought, he knows what those values were at. And so he knows how much money. He's got a good idea, let's put it that way. And so we've always lived beneath our means, and I still do. And so, but the more money you make, and I'll give you this, something about me and money. My wife and me were in a counseling session once. Oh, this was awesome. This is like one of the only wins I get as a husband. she'll laugh because she goes, it's the only one because he's wrong all the other times. And so we're in a counseling session, and we had gotten a little argument. She's like, "Hey, you overspent here and you overspent there." I'm like, "What do you mean overspent? Like you spent too much. Like we should have went out to expensive dinner, right? Because we're still really cheap in our minds, both of us. We're trying to break free from that and go into a wealth mindset. It's a real thing. It's a real paradigm, and it's been an awesome journey, to be honest with you. I can't wait to talk more about that. And so I got to get in the gym soon, just but I'm on a roll, I think. We go to the counseling session, and I'm like, "Hey, let's wait for the counselor. She can figure out who's right and who's wrong." So, "Travis, not a contest." I'm like, "Heck yeah, it is. Everything in this world's a contest. If we're going to marriage counseling, it's a contest. Who's right and who's wrong?" The counselor used to always tell me, "Travis, it's not about who's right or wrong." I'm like, "What am I paying you for?" Because I just want to know who's right. If my wife's right and you go, "She's right because of this, this, and this," all right, I'll change. Because a wise man heeds a word of rebuke. "Hey, you're doing something wrong, you're screwing up." Cool. I don't want to screw up anymore. I'll fix it and I'll keep going because I'll just get smarter, richer, have more influence, be able to help more people. That's how the world works. So she's telling all this stuff, and the lady's mouth's just dropping. I can't believe this. And I'm being quiet and I'm ready. I'm just like, I got my answer. I got my answer. And she finally looks at me. This is like one of the only times I've had restraint in my life. Okay. I'm seriously. And I'm like, and she goes, "Well, what do you have to say about all this?" I go, "I only spend 10% of what I make." And she goes, "What?" I'm like, "I only spend 10% of what I make." And she looks at my wife, and my wife goes, rolls her eyes. She goes, "Okay, if you look at it in that context," and she goes, "Wait a minute, hold on. That's 10% of what you make." I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "See, my whole life I've lived in this 10% realm, and my wife knows it. And if I want something great, like I want a Ferrari, I need to go make a certain amount more money. Well, I got to go make 10x that money to go buy the Ferrari." And my wife's like, "Yeah, it's true. That's what he does." And she goes, "He's obsessed with it." And she's just looking at me, just mouth drop. And I go, "Yeah, if more people had that sense, hey, I'm not going to spend on my credit card. And if I do, I'm only doing it for the points, and then I'll pay it off that month." Um, uh, and that's what I do. I live off credit cards. I pay my balance every single month. Credit card companies like, "You're a credit risk. You spend too much money." I'm like, "I pay it off every month." Like, "Yeah, but you spend a lot of money." I'm like, "Are you guys listening to yourself?" Whatever. But my point being is, I had that answer. I'm like, "You're a freaking one." Come out. I'm like, "Yeah, I won." And she goes, "Travis," she's trying not to laugh. She goes, "It's not about winning." I'm like, "It is. All of my life is about winning." And would you guys agree with that? Just hashtag winning if you agree. And what I've done is, like next, there's a day where I'm gonna own a jet, right? We got a plane right now. It's my son's, and he flies it. It's his plane actually, but our company bought a portion for him because he uses it for his YouTube channel, and he's an incredible pilot. He's young. He started flying when he was 14 years old. He got his pilot. Oh, he got his pilot's license on his own. He saved up. I'm not joking. At 15 years old, he started saving up and taking flight lessons, and he figured out how to get a pilot's license and learn how to get grants. But he paid for 25% of it himself, and now he's got his own plane and flies all over. And I go, "Yeah, we're gonna get a plane." And I'm all, "But I got to make X amount of money to go do it. And the only reason I'd go with the plane I'm looking at a few. Um, you're gonna see me start flipping planes because I've told you the only things I've never flipped are jets and yachts. And I'm gonna flip those during this next crash. You're gonna see it, and your mind will be dropped at the prices I pay, because like I was looking at really nice 60-foot yachts for $250,000 in the last crash. And these are nice. They're gonna be turned into houses. But my point being is, you've never seen this during a crash, and I'm gonna be doing it. And I'm like, I just want to take 1 million people with me. I want to see 1 million of you guys be millionaires, so that when I go, "Hey guys, today there's an incredible opportunity to buy planes, insane tax write-off, and we could flip them. We could go to government auctions and buy seized planes and yachts, or we could do this and that, and show people how to just flip big money, right? Or take advantage of the bond market collapse, which just, after I get out of the gym, I'm gonna do a live stream about the bond market crash. It's gonna be awesome. So I'm not joking. But my point being is that I wanted to do that. I wanted to take people there. Um, hey Nick, thank you so much. Oh, and you got into XRP. That's awesome. You're gonna be doing very well in the next couple of years. My point being is that uh, you, we're in that mode where you've got to live like a ninja, and enjoy the fact that people think you're an idiot. When Kiyosaki was yelling at me, or Robert, I told him, he's like, "I'm a billionaire," and I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I'm gonna be a billionaire. I'm gonna be a billionaire in a few years. So I think within 10." And he goes, and he's just yelling at me, and I'm like, Robert, in '05, you said I was one of the smartest dudes you ever met. And then you were like one of my first interviews. Your wife stopped the interview, say, hey, Travis, you know the things you're talking about most? And I was being all like technical back then. I wasn't on a tricycle. She goes, you're talking about things that most people have no concept of. Like, I know. And that's when Robert remembered who I was. And I go, but I'm just not going to be I don't want to say the word. And I'm like, dude, I'm gonna shake the world of how a wealthy person should act. And what's really exciting, what's more exciting than anything, and I told my wife this, and to talk about tithe, I used to tell my wife back in like 2011 or 2012, I got this vision of feeding nations during a really hard time, and I told my wife, we're gonna start feeding nations, and I say it all the time, and she, okay, whatever, Trav. The plumbing's broke, and I'm like, yeah, I wanna go feed nations. I gotta go do this. Let's go hire a plumber. Anyway, um, lately, all of my investments have been exploding. You know, when I was putting every dime into silver and gold, and then I started buying Bitcoin, and I was putting all my money into that, right? And you guys know my story. My first Bitcoin was about $500. My first Ethereum at 50, and then I got really into ICUs. ICUs. I got really into ICUs. ICOs. There's just something about sitting around all those sick people, and I just really liked it. No, it's GZO. ICOs, initial coin offerings. Well, now I've been holding this stuff and stocks, specific stocks, and everything's exploding because we're going into a hyperinflation. So it's bittersweet. A lot of people think they're making a lot of money, but and they are, but everything's hyperinflating. I just paid $12, 11.69 or 7.68 for a carton, an 18 pack of eggs. All right, this is really happening right now, and it's a slow moving train wreck, and then it's going to accelerate. But you know, I tell you about the tithe, and when you tithe 10%, when you make $10,000 a year, that's $1,000 a year in tithe, right? When you tithe 10%, when you're making $100,000 a year, that's you've moved up, you've gotten a better job, or you're investing. You're now tithing $10,000. I told my wife, I said, I want to write $1 million checks. I just want to. I just want to know that where we're putting our money is helping. And this isn't bragging. I'm not talking about offerings, which I'm going to be honest with you, I don't do offerings very often at all. Unless the Lord put it on my heart or something happens. But but we're not there yet with those checks. But we're at the point where my wife's like, wow, like this is incredible to be able to help people. And I'll go, I know. And I said, I want to be that billionaire that, because this is the truth. And I've told you this before. As you get richer, your taste for things really dissipates. When you know you could have anything you want, you don't find the desire. And I was always really good at, I would go window shopping. My mom taught me this because we didn't have a lot of money growing up. My dad worked really hard as a state employee. He worked in the prison system really hard for us. And, you know, he was just struggling. He wanted to pay off his house and have a secure future for his family. And so we didn't have a ton extra at all. And so I was really good at window shopping. And my wife would get frustrated. What are you doing today? I'm like, I'm just cruising around the electronics store looking at big screen TVs and stuff. And she's like, what? And she's like, if I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to buy something, you know. And she was an incredible person with money, mind you. My wife is incredible. I lucked out huge, right? So for savings, my wife is incredible. And so now, and I would dream big. You know, I used to have the desire to have a Ferrari. And I was like, you know, and there was a point where, like mid-teens, 20 teens, I'm like, I could start my own Ferrari dealer. I could go buy 10 Ferraris, start flipping Ferraris. Ferrari wouldn't like that, but you know what I'm saying. I don't have the desire. I sat one the other day, fired up. I was at my buddy's Lucky's house, and he's got a bunch of Ferraris and Lambos for sale. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna buy a Lamborghini one of these days. But I'm like, that's just gonna be, you know, I just want to be able to make that with one stock trade. I told my wife too. I said, hey, I want to go buy this house. And I'm like, we're going to go buy this stock. And I bought a stock, and I go, when it goes up 10 times, we're going to sell it and we're going to go buy a house. We did that. I always had a goal. And so my money's sectioned off. I have silver tubes where I sold my Ferrari, my replica car when I was a kid and really knew a lot less and wanted to impress people that didn't even like me. I just wanted to impress people that didn't like me. That's a sad existence. But I have silver tubes with the Ferrari written on them. And I'm like, someday I'm going to go buy a real Ferrari, which I won't now. I don't like the company. With the money, I sell that silver for. And I will. There'll be a day where you see me buy an exotic car and I'll tell that story. I'm like, look, here's the tubes. And I'll probably even just trade the Ferrari guy because they'll be, or the Lamborghini guy or GT40. You probably buy a GT40 or a 69 Camaro SS. Shelby Cobra. All right. One of those I'll be trading for silver, right? And I'll tell the story on the channel. But that's from long-term goal setting and planning and dreaming and having visions, And so that's what I wanted to tell you today. I know I rambled on, but hopefully you got something from this. Because this is an incredible time to be alive. I love teaching people how to make money. I cannot get over that I went from being insulted and all that stuff for years. Nobody ever wanted to take my ideas and advice and lessons for free, to where now, honestly, people pay me and I'm watching people's lives change as they're buying their first home, their first rental, their 50th rental. I'm starting businesses. I can't even fathom that I'm in the place now where I started a financial education company and people's lives are being changed and I'm getting paid to do it. Man, I got to tell you, my life has changed forever and I want your life to change forever. And how that starts is living like an economic ninja. The channel isn't about me being called an economic ninja, it's about you. So if you are willing to live under your means and work really hard and live like nobody else today so that you can live like nobody else tomorrow, and you understand what I'm saying, then do me a favor and just put down below, I accept this. I mean, this is a challenge. I accept this. I am an economic ninja. And just put it down below and say it out loud and type it down and start doing what I did. Live beneath your means. Try and help people as much as you can, but you're not really going to be able to help anyone unless you're rich. I know. You can give people words of advice that are true. They're not going to take it. But when they're hungry, you're going to be able to feed them. When they need clothing, you're going to be able to clothe them. And the cool thing is, and hopefully you're doing it too, I'm doing it in the name of Jesus Christ. It's God's money. I'm just the one that he needs to look at, and am I being good with it? Okay? And if you don't know Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior, I'll just tell you what, your life will change. Just look up into the sky and say, Jesus, if you're real, I would want to know you. If you died for my sins, I'd want to know you. And so I just want to be open to your truth. And the ninja said, if I say this, you're going to reveal yourself to me somehow. I'm going to know that you want to live inside of me, with me, and take me on an amazing adventure. I hope you got something out of this. The Economic Ninja is going to the gym.